In today's video, we are going to look at some devices used to stimulate the pelvic floor, both internally and externally. Some of these devices, and you might be wondering, well, should I or shouldn't I use them? And so today I thought it would be useful just to show some of the different devices that are available and to talk a little bit about my experience with these devices. So we maybe start with the internal stimulation devices. So there are a number of devices. So I've two here. This is the NeuroTrack Continence and the Kegel 8 Ultra. There's many different varieties of these devices, and they're very similar to TENS machines. What they're basically doing is creating a little electrical current that is passed down through a cable into a probe, and then that probe will create a little contraction in your muscle. So it basically gives your muscle a little electric shock to get it to contract. And depending on, there's many different types of probes that you can use. So depending on where you're going to stimulate, you'll use different devices. So this is an internal probe. It's a pretty standard probe, and you can see that it has these two silver parts. So before you use this, you would apply some sort of gel to the probe to make sure that it has enough contact when you insert it. You always insert it so that the cable is coming up towards the clitoris. So the cable always comes up the front. And then these two little probes, the little stimulation parts, are always aligned with the two side walls. So you don't ever stimulate the front wall where you have your urethra and the bladder, or the back wall where you have the rectum. You're always stimulating the sides. Now, this is another type of vaginal probe. As you can see, again, it has the two little things on the side. And again, this one you insert so that the side walls are going to be stimulated by these two little silver panels, and the wire then comes up past the clitoris. So with these two are vaginal probes. And this one is an anal probe. So the anal probe is used very often by men, because this is not just a female issue. Pelvic floor dysfunction does affect 1 in every 10 men, 1 in every 3 women. So if you're using the anal probe, there's different shapes and sizes. This one is quite small. It looks a bit scary. It's just about the size of my finger, actually, but it's not too bad. I have tried it. This one, when you put this one into the anus, you would never use the vaginal probe and the anal probe at the same time. You can only use one of these at a time. And if you want to use an anal probe, you have to use a specific program for that. Now, with all of these devices, there are programs on the devices, and you will get a little booklet with your device. And in that booklet, it will tell you what the different programs are for. And in some cases, so I'm here in Scandinavia, Scandinavian physiotherapists tend to recommend continuous stimulation, whereas physiotherapists in the UK, for example, they recommend that it's a stop-start. So it'll contract you for a few seconds and then relax for a number of seconds and then contract. So depending on which program you choose, the stimulation will be a little different. Now, it is also possible to do external stimulation with these devices. And in that case, you would get some sort of little electrodes, with skin electrodes that you attach. Now, with the Kegel 8, if you go onto the Flower Empowered, there is information there on TPTNS, which is tibial nerve stimulation, basically, transcutaneous tibial nerve stimulation. And this is where the electrodes are placed on the foot. So there's one placed just on the insert of the foot, and one placed on the ankle, and you stimulate there, and it stimulates the nerves, and that helps with incontinence. How exactly is not quite understood. You can read a little bit more about it and the studies connecting to it from the Flower Empowered, and I'll put a little link down below to the section of the site where we go through this. But this is something that if you buy the Kegel8 Ultra 20, there is a specific program in there for the external stimulation. Now, the electrodes, these can also be used if you want to use it like a TENS machine to release tension. It can be used for relaxation, and also you can do sacral nerve stimulation by placing the pads on your lower back. But you should always read the manual that you get with the device. There are many different programs, and you should make sure that you follow set programs. Don't try to create your own programs. Don't think, oh, well, I can put these where I want and just go for it. That, I would say, isn't very safe. So do follow the manufacturer's guidelines if you're going to do that. So that's the internal stimulation and a little bit about TPTNS. But also we have external stimulation. So let's say that you feel really uncomfortable with the idea of using an internal probe, then you may want to do external stimulation. In that case, then we have Innovo. So this is Innovo. I know that they have released these new shorts. So it's like all in one piece, a pair of shorts that you pull up and connected to a device that creates stimulation. But what I have here is the Innovo, the older version, where you would actually take these. There's one for each leg, and you open them up and they have these electrodes, skin electrodes, and you take these pads off and you wrap them around and you attach them to your body on both sides. So they look a little bit like a pair of shorts, and you start the device and it contracts your pelvic floor, but using external stimulation. So actually there is some gluteal stimulation when you use these devices as well. And if you have weak glutes, which very many of us do, or slippy glutes as I like to call them, we have a video on gluteal activation and on how to start to build some strength in your glutes. But if your glutes are an issue, then this is actually a really good product to try, because as well as working your pelvic floor, you also get a little bit of stimulation of your gluteal muscles. So that's it for today. I hope